1865, the Nottingham Forest podcast, is proudly sponsored by The Terrace, the home of retro and fan culture sports merchandising. Check out their range of Forest merch by visiting theterracestore.com or visit them on social media.
The 1865 Match Report.
Welcome to 1865. It's the match report, the day after Forest got their first win of the season, and in fact their first victory since the 5th of April, which is 13 long matches ago. It's Rich here, and I'm joined in a few minutes by Baz. Just to give you a quick summary of the match: a goal in the first half from Lewis Grabban, which followed a blistering run from Brennan Johnson, and then we had a deflected second half effort from Joe Lolly, which was actually attributed to being an own goal from their keeper. But it saw Forest take the points as well as a welcome clean sheet. Now, just before we get started, we thought we'd get a view from the opposition. So we're delighted to be joined by Brady from the And He Takes That Chance podcast. And Brady, you were at the match. Tell us what you thought.
Hi, it's Brady from And He Takes That Chance. Thanks for having me on, Rich. Was I surprised by Forest's lineup and formation? Yeah, so you matched us 3-4-2-1. I've got to be honest, I've not watched a lot of Nottingham Forest this season, but I thought you, from my perspective, you guys had a perfect away performance, really. You got your goal, which was a really well taken goal. I mean, Brennan Johnson's run across it for Grabban was... I remember seeing it at the time and being frustrated because it was just a well worked goal, and I thought you guys played well and, to be honest, fully deserved the win. We had a bit of an off day, really. I thought classic Huddersfield. We've been on a bit of a good run, but as I'm sure your fans will know as well, it doesn't take much for something to go wrong. So I was a bit disappointed at Huddersfield, but fair play to Nottingham Forest. I thought they played great yesterday and fully deserved the win.
Thanks. Now, Huddersfield had the lion's share of the statistics, but Forest were probably the more threatening team. Did that surprise you at all, that the Reds were playing a bit more on the front foot than you might have expected given their season so far?
Yeah, that was quite typical last season. Huddersfield would dominate possession, but didn't really have any cutting edge, and that was what we saw on Saturday really against Forest. I think you clearly had the better chances. I can't really think of many opportunities we created in open play. Obviously, Sorba Thomas's delivery at set pieces can always cause a danger, but we didn't see, had a couple of chances go wide in the second half, but didn't really look like threatening, to be honest. I think we just we lacked ideas, really, especially when trying to, in the final third and trying to create openings. But I think also we can talk a lot about what Huddersfield did wrong, but I think Forest defended, great. He stuck a lot of men behind the ball when they needed to. I thought Jed Spence in particular was amazing. I know we'll kind of come on to that, but Nottingham came out. I think it was obvious, given after Chris Hughton was sacked midweek, that Forest were, you normally see a bit of a bounce, even though a manager hasn't been appointed, and we did fully see that. And like I say, fair play to Forest, completely deserved it.
It's an obvious question, but do you think this was a fair result, including Forest keeping a clean sheet?
Yeah, definitely. As I've alluded to, I think a fair result for Forest. You guys played it perfectly. You got a well worked goal for the first one. Great cross, great finish. Completely, Brennan Johnson completely skinned Levi Colwill. I think you can't really criticise the goal because it was a well taken goal, but I think looking back, I would have liked Colwill to probably put Johnson, into the stands, so he doesn't get that cross in. But amazing goal. Yeah, completely fair result. Really, don't think we had too many opportunities. I think Samba made a good save in the first half, but I thought Worrell was quite impressive at the back as well. We didn't really create many openings for you. I know there was a blocked Dwayne Holmes shot towards the end, but completely fair result, really. And I think this is, hopefully for you guys, you can go on a bit of a run now, depending on who you appoint, because, I don't need to tell Forest fans, but you do, I know the squad's a bit of a mess and you've signed a lot of players, but you do have a lot of quality players, and sometimes quality kind of shines through, and I think it did yesterday. So yeah, completely fair result, and yeah, deserved the clean sheet. I don't think we were clinical enough or created too many good opportunities.
And lastly, were there any particular Forest players who caught your eye?
Yeah, I think there was a few good performances from Forest players for me. I thought Jed Spence was brilliant. He actually went off the sidelines where I was sat, and some fans were giving him a bit for having a good game, and he blew kisses to the crowd, which I must admit did make me laugh. And took it superbly. Had a great game, I thought. Thought Joel Worrell was particularly impressive as well. Just did what he needed to do, and yeah, I think. There was a real commitment from Forest. I think we thought it'd be a good time to play them, given your start to the season. But I thought Forest were superb, very disciplined. Just we use this a lot in football, but I did think they wanted it more. They were more aggressive in challenges. I thought your pressing was particularly impressive as well. Hogg got caught a few times, and from the press from Forest, and yeah, really good. I think a lot of good performances. Joel Ollie looked up for it as well. I thought, as you'd be surprised, you wouldn't be surprised given his former links to Huddersfield. Yeah, just a really impressive performance from Forest. Like I say, Worrell and Spence, I think, particularly stood out for me. And grabbing well taken goal from the cross, and we know what he can do at this level. So yeah, wouldn't if you put in performances like that, wouldn't be surprised to see you climb up the table rather quickly.
Okay, thank you to Brady, and commiserations on the result for you, but obviously we're delighted. I'm joined by Baz now. Now, Baz, if Forest were safety first under Chris Hughton, well, in this match they were wearing high vis, but it also goes to show that compare and contrast. If you play too deep, what you do is you end up inviting lots of pressure, and ultimately, over the last, not only this season, but the last third of last season, it just meant that Forest were never able to get a foothold in the game. They're just conceding goals. So let's just start off with the formation, because when they went three at the back, do you think that was important? Because you and I had both identified central midfield as being a crucial element. So do you think it took that little bit of pressure off Garner and Yates in the centre of the park?
I wouldn't. I don't know if. First of all, I have to say I really like that kit. I think it's fantastic.
Well, there's one person who likes that kit. Apparently, there's 20% off in the club shop, which might explain why they were wearing it yesterday.
Yeah. So I think three at the back, given the personnel we have now, makes a lot of sense. And I'm not sure if it's necessarily that it takes the pressure off Garner and Yates, but what it does is it allowed us more presence in the middle of the park, even though technically there were four in the middle of the park, which is what we've had all along. It allows us to control things much better, which if you're not constantly defending down the wings, then that works in our favour, obviously. And as I said the other day, I think games are won and lost in midfield. If you're not controlling the midfield, then you leave your defence under pressure. If you're not controlling the midfield, you can't get the ball forward to make chances. And both those things have been what's been happening to us recently.
Now, the other thing that was commented on in the Quest Highlights show by Colin Murray and Joby McAnuff was the change of formation also enabled Forest to use the width of the park a little bit better. And we've had a real load of criticism for the lack of goals that Forest have offered. Now, that first half goal, Brennan Johnson with another absolutely blistering run and cross, and he put it there for Lewis Grabban. So a couple of things there. Firstly, it does show, doesn't it, that Forest haven't used the size of the pitch effectively under Hughton. And secondly, something that you and I, again, have discussed along with everyone else on the podcast, which is I do think we've got players who've got the ability to score goals, but what we haven't do is we haven't put chances their way, have we?
Yeah, and I criticised Lyle Taylor the other week. I think actually his biggest problem has been that we've not put the ball in front of him, and that's why he's been getting so frustrated. And I think it shows that one, it's quite telling that both the goals yesterday came from wide areas, low crosses. And then the other thing is, Brennan Johnson picks the ball up in his own half, beats 4 players to get there, and put the cross in. That's almost like a Stan Collymore effort.
Yeah, well, the other parallel is you'd mentioned Lyle Taylor. So in that opening match of the season, again, it was a terrific first goal of the season, wasn't it? And that came from Brennan getting the ball, pushing out wide, taking players on, and then laying the ball, putting a cross in front of Taylor. Yesterday, he put the cross in front of Grabban. That's what centre forwards love, isn't it?
Absolutely. And Grabban said as much in his post-match interview. He says that's exactly what you're looking for, the ball between the keeper and the defender. And then all the responsibilities on Grabban to put it away. And he thrives on that.
Yeah, and you contrast that with the way that that Taylor and Grabban last season were having to, and Glenn Murray last season were having to play, where they were getting the ball kind of pumped towards them, so they were back to goal with 3 defenders behind them, and
or coming deep and trying to run the ball into the box.
Yeah, which Grabban can do, but it's not fair on him if he's the only centre forward to expect him to do that, is it?
Yeah.
Okay. Clean sheet. That's something new. Considering that Chris Hughton has got a reputation as being somebody who likes to keep it solid and keep it tight at the back, we've not been very good at keeping clean sheets. So we had a back 3. We also had a quick return to the team for Brice Samba. Now, you said in midweek that if Samba had looked lacking in confidence and a bit flappy throughout the season, you thought that Ethan Horvath looked a bit overconfident, and maybe that's what led to that calamity against Middlesbrough. But was the American still a bit unlucky to be dropped?
I feel really, really bad for Horvath. I think not just did he look overconfident, but his horrendous error came after 5 minutes of the players getting abused by us. So I think it's all very, very harsh on Horvath. But from what I saw of Samba, he looked pretty confident and pretty much back on form. So that was quite nice to see.
Well, I was going to say, so a clean sheet, having a back 3. So, I mean, with Worrell and McKenna, we know that they try and organise and lead. And Toby Figueiredo is a warrior. He might not be the best footballer in the world, but what he is a head it, kick it kind of player. So he was sat in the middle of them. So do you think that helps Samba kind of to redress the balance a little bit?
I think so. I think it's one of those things. I'm guessing that all the centre halves always talk about how having a confident keeper behind him gives them confidence. I think it probably works the other way as well. So the keeper knowing that he can rely on his defence means that it gives him a boost as well.
Yeah, and just a quick one on Toby Figueiredo. I predicted a back 3, but I thought it'd be Mbeso who would get the nod on the right of that 3. As it turns out, it's Worrell on the right and then Figueiredo in the middle. Were you surprised by that? And do you think it was probably because Toby is a head it, kick it kind of player?
Well, it was a surprise. I think they're 3 very, very similar centre halves in that way. And quite often in a back 3, you'll see one who's maybe a bit better at playing the ball in the centre to work as more of a sort of sweepery libero kind of player. And we didn't have that. We had 3 proper old-fashioned centre halves right there. So that's quite... Go on.
No, maybe with time. We've seen last season a few occasions that McKenna is comfortable if he gets the chance at kind of coming through the midfield and maybe making a run. So if the back 3 is to be a thing at Forest, and again, we talk about club strategies as much as what managers do. If that's the plan, then maybe the plan is that McKenna, and to a lesser extent, Worrell occasionally likes a little walkabout, doesn't he? So maybe it's to enable that. We'll talk about the
other thing, just as an aside, the little bit of speculation I put in is I think Yates could do a job there as well as the middle one of the back 3.
Yeah, he did a cameo at centre half in the Carabao Cup, didn't he? And we were just thinking, well, he's tall, he's strong. He's not great on the ball, which is why people have problems with him in midfield. Yeah. But yeah, if you asked him to be a head it, kick it kind of player, then I can see that as well. We'll talk about the new manager once the appointment is confirmed. In the here and now, one thing that was really noticeable is that the team were not just sitting back, and also in turn, the other thing that was noticeable is that after 3 or 4 matches where the atmosphere was pretty awful at home and away, the fans were right behind the team. And it's one of those things. I guess it almost felt like we were never going to win a match ever again under Houghton.
Yeah.
And you drew the comparison with how it was under Megson, sort of, which is 15, 16 years ago now. But that was as bad as we'd known it before, I think. So it felt like a weight had been lifted. Joe Lolly, potentially controversially, used the word freedom on Instagram after the match. What are your thoughts there?
So there was an article on somewhere or the other where someone was talking about leaked WhatsApp messages with some of the forwards ranting, and we've all seen the Grant Holt article at Norwich with Houghton, and Grant Holt said, "Well, he's a very nice man, but I just don't like the way we play." And I think there's a lot of that in there. The idea that, and we heard from the Brighton guy as well, saying Houghton concentrated on dealing with the midfield and defence and leaving the forwards to it, and that basically left them to come up with their own strategies. I think that idea that the thing I noticed, especially for the second goal, is we were playing in their half. We were actually using the ball rather than just dropping off immediately. It was we were using the ball in their half and trying to keep the pressure on them and playing football up the pitch. And yeah, I can imagine for someone like Joe Lolly, who actually wants to get forward at every possible opportunity and take people on, then that does feel like freedom.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say that Stephen Reid, he only had a day to sort out the formation and the tactics and to speak to the players and tell them, communicate what he wanted doing. It was notable that at 1-0, I've seen quite a few people pointing out that at 1-0, he was, rather than that thing of sitting back, he was trying to encourage the team to push forward. And then also, as you just said, that second goal came as a result of Forest having bodies in and around in the last third of the pitch, which is pretty rare.
Yeah.
Also at 2-0, when Huddersfield were putting on some pressure, and again, compare and contrast with Chris Hughton, Reid made some subs, which in one sense you could say player for player, they were fairly like for like. But what he was actually doing is by putting on Colback and Richardson, there was a tactical shift, even if the formation was ostensibly still 3 at the back and 4 or 5 in midfield or whatever. Yeah,
it's one of those things like sometimes the players that you change, even though, they play in the same position, because they give something different, it changes the whole feel of the game and changes the emphasis of what you're trying to do. I keep going back to Billy Davies with his plan B. One of the things he used to do is put Gareth McCleary on. And it wasn't because Gareth McCleary could attack them. He was an attacker, but it wasn't that. It was just that he would make the ball stick higher up the pitch, which was useful when you were defending. So obviously Colback can't do that, but that's kind of the same sort of thing, is just changing the emphasis and making the ball sit in different parts of the pitch.
Yeah, and I guess sometimes, I mean, for Gareth McCleary, you could read Alex Myton, because it's also that thing of giving their defenders something slightly different to think about, which maybe puts them on the back foot, and psychologically as much as physically, I guess. I guess what I'm trying to say is that maybe that's an ability to react and respond and adapt that perhaps we've been missing under Houghton, because he is so rigid, as you've just said, and those interviews and snippets there's something we probably will come on and talk about in the future, because there's no midweek match. It looks as though Steve Cooper will be confirmed as the new head coach soon, so we will have a podcast when the new head coach is appointed and when that is confirmed. And we will be looking forward to yet another new era at the City Ground, I suppose. So I think what we're all hoping is that the players can find a way of playing, because a comment that I made to somebody on Twitter the other day is that it's not that we've got terrible players, but the players have been playing terribly.
Yeah, and I was thinking that after the transfer window, actually there's a lot of unknowns, but the squad doesn't look too bad. It's just whether we can get the best out of them and whether we can make them do what's what. And it looked like yesterday we did get the best out of them, or we did get them to do the right things.